Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Lips Garage. Today I'm going to show the beginning of what started as a shifter swap in the Ford Fairlane. I had the 3-speed column shift, and I decided to switch over to a floor shift. As I got into plans, different things changed and went from one to another, went from a shifter swap to a transmission swap to a clutch swap to an engine swap. So it's a snowball. Once you get started, sometimes things just don't stop until you're way outside of where you wanted to be. This particular project is going to be a couple different episodes. This week is going to show you some of the prep and the removal. It'll be a shorter video. The next week is going to show the installation and a few other things that I did. The installation itself at this point still is not complete. I've got a bit more to do, running some issues with some of the front drive. We'll get into some of the differences between a 302 and a 351. Even though they're both Windsor based, there are quite a few things that changed and quite a few things that you're able to retain from the other engine. That'll be a couple of episodes later. As you can probably tell by my recording at the moment, it is a pretty balmy 4 degrees up here in Wisconsin, so my work has slowed down a little bit between the weather. I'm still setting up the 2 garages to be, efficient on both locations, and I am still kind of recovering from about a week-long bout with the flu, although I am up feeling much better and starting to move around a bit more. So I appreciate the thoughts on those, the few people that have reached out to me. In the meantime, let's go ahead and jump right into this week's episode. At this point, you can see I've already removed the drive shaft, and I have removed the transmission itself. This one does have a separate bell housing, which is still on the engine at the moment. The old transmission, you can see, is all covered in a bunch of gunk and crap. Here's the linkage as it attaches to the transmission side, leading up to the column shift. This here's the clutch fork. See all the pivot, everything for there, everything down below that needs to come apart. Again, this transmission has seen some better days. There's a lot of crud. Here you can see the shift levers are pointed down on the side of the transmission case. And then when I take a look at the transmission that I had bought for the shifter, much better shape. The case isn't leaking. The measurements were the same. The spline count is the same. The shifter actually bolts to the tail shaft of the transmission. This one, the tabs go up, so there'd be a little bit more to it than I thought just to flip it out, the shifter itself, so I decided to go ahead and change the whole transmission. Taking a look at the rest of the engine, you can see that there's quite a few different seals that are leaking. Again, ultimately I had an issue with that pan with the drain plug being stripped out, but the rest of the underside of the car is really solid. A lot of the subframe, the torque boxes, things that normally get weak on an old school unibody Ford are all really tight and solid on this thing. Motor mounts, they're pretty good shape. The rubber's not cracked or broken or any play in it. But while you're this far, a new set of motor mounts is like $20. You might as well just change them for peace of mind. That is a speedometer gear. A lot of times you'll hear about what type of gear you need to keep your speedometer accurate, and they'll be color-coded. That one particular, as you saw, was green. This here again is showing the clutch fork. As you hit the pedal, it engages the clutch fork, which disengages the clutch itself. This is the exhaust I plan to use. It is a dual exhaust for a 351 Windsor with the Y pipe in the middle. This one came out of a Mustang. And this here is the engine. This is one you've seen in a prior episode. I was actually building for the wagon. It is the 351 Windsor, which has a taller deck height. The deck height is the difference between the center line of the camshaft and the pedestal where the heads mount. So back under the hood of the car, you can see I've already got the radiator and some of the front dress pulled off. I got pretty much everything disconnected and got this thing ready to pull out. One of the interesting things was on the driver's side exhaust manifold. I knew I had a crack. That was actually cracked all the way around and came out in a couple different pieces. Going to the passenger side, there was a crack in here as well, but the manifold itself is still in one piece. Good reason to obviously go ahead and change everything while I'm there. But again, at this point, I do have everything disconnected, and it should be pretty simple to just pluck this thing out of the engine bay. So, after all that, Here I am in the middle of my shifter swap. Got everything out. I'm hosing down and cleaning out the underside. And then I will drop it, clean out the top side. And then while I'm waiting on parts, I will do some cleanup and do some painting in the engine bay. Kind of clean it up, dress it up a little bit. This isn't quite the timeline I had for this project, but opportunity presented itself and I will take advantage of it. And that's it for this week. I do apologize. Again, the video is a little bit choppy. I'm still working on some editing techniques, and I was going through a few different transitions in my life when I was making those videos. So not as smooth, not as catalog as what I try and have out normally, which is really saying something. Again, in the meantime, I'm going to work on smoothing up the video for next week. I do have another video, at least one, if not two, on overcoming some of the issues I had working on the Impala. And I still have a video coming out with some of the work I've done in the garage. You can kind of see some of the lighting. I've got some wiring to still finish up. So I've got a couple of episodes come out this year yet. And I am planning a pretty big road trip this summer that I want to film. And then not only the projects that I showed last week, but I do have another one that hopefully I'm going to be picking up on Tuesday. So there may be a real quick update if I get to secure that project. And hopefully starting season 3, you'll be able to see a lot more of my long-term projects getting done. I'm itching to have them drive. My wife's itching to get them out of the house. So let's hope all that goes. Again, as always, I definitely appreciate everybody that does check in and watch these videos. Give a like, give a subscribe if you feel comfortable doing so. Again, through a comment, through a question, and I will definitely answer what I can. As always, I appreciate it. Have a good week, guys.